Mark of the Beast has become one of the most misunderstood and abusive forms of thought of Christian thought. This prominently comes about because of a false prophecy made by the so-called Jesus Christ, as well as a myth concerning Nero. You see, early first century Christians felt that Nero was the most persecuting Roman emperor that they had experienced, even more persecuting than Augustus Caesar towards the Jews and towards the newly found Christian faith. But Nero, who died in 68 CE, there was a belief that he did not actually die from his head wounds, that he actually escaped past the Euphrates River, and that he would return with the Parthian army, an army from the east, most likely, and that he would then reestablish himself as emperor of Rome and then continue to persecute Christians at an incredibly high level. So when the book of John was referring to the beast, and when the book of Revelations, John of Patmos, is referring to the beast, they refer to Nero. This is why the number of the beast is 666. Because when you take the name Nero, Caesar, and you adjust it into or translate it into Hebrew, the name then through Gematria becomes the number 616. Later, when you look at the Latin version of the Bible, the number of the beast now becomes 616, because in Latin Gematria, it becomes 616 instead of the 666 that you see in the Greek. Now, because of this false prophecy of Jesus, the fact that Jesus said that there are those among you who are alive today that will not taste death until my return, and I will return within that time frame. Many Christians in the early first century, mid first century, thought that Jesus would return before this first century would end. And because of that, Nero then becomes the beast who becomes the Antichrist. Now, of course, Christians at that time frame could not just outwardly say such. So by not saying that, what they did was utilize Gematria to demonstrate that Nero was the beast that they were talking about in the book of Revelations and in the apocalyptic writings of the Gospel of John. The book of Revelations has metaphors, but it also has literal things in it. And when it comes to the mark of the beast and the fact that you wouldn't be able to buy nor sell unless you take on the mark of the beast on your forehead and in your right hand, was a metaphoric way of saying that if you did not practice the imperial cult, which this would be the mark on your forehead, it is metaphorical in the same sense that John uses the metaphor that when an angel comes down, that he will mark the followers of Jesus, the followers of Christ, the 144,000, those who are enslaved to Christ. This was not to mean a literal mark on the forehead as a slave, as the Bible teaches in the Old Testament, that to tattoo the body is an actual sin against this God. So the mark on your forehead, which was a metaphor used as far as being a follower of Jesus or a sealed of God, then that was metaphoric. And so most scholars agree that the mark of the beast on your forehead is a symbolic meaning that you will worship within the imperial cult. Now, to understand the people of that day for whom the audience that they're speaking towards, if a person did not participate in the worship of the imperial cult, then they were then persecuted and subjected to being placed outside of the economic community of the Roman Empire. You see, Rome had a thing where every religion can be utilized. You can participate in your religion, but you must honor annually the imperial cult, which prompt up the emperor as a god, and that you must give worship to this emperor at least once a year. What we see in the writings of the gospel when Jesus says, render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, or to pay the taxes, is the fact that a special decree went out during the time frame of Augustus and prior to Augustus, when the Romans took over from Julius Caesar on through till you get to the first century, that the Jewish people were allowed to pay a temple tax in order to avoid putting up a statue of Caesar, to avoid them having to actually participate in the imperial cult in the same way everyone else in the Roman Empire did, but instead just pay utilizing the money of the Roman Empire in order to pay taxes and to not have to do the physical worship. In this way, they still participated in the imperial court without the harshness, without having to have a statue and praying to the statue, but then still be able to participate in the economics of the Roman Empire. So the mark of the beast in your right hand was not necessarily a mark either. It was the fact that the Romans would utilize the face of the emperor to seal the coins in the same way that this God said that he will seal his people. And even your Jesus character, when he told the men to go find a fish and you will find the coins there to pay the taxes, was in reference to this temple tax. And it's in reference to the fact that Caesar's face is placed on the coin, so render unto Caesar what is Caesar. This was a way for you to participate in Christianity, but not necessarily have to worship in the same way, but still be within the economics of the religion, well, economics of the empire. So when we look at Revelations and it's saying that you will not be able to buy nor sell, and without having that mark on your right hand. It is not a microchip or anything else that's placed on your right hand. It is the mere fact that when you did commerce in the ancient world, to pay someone with your left hand would be to insult them. To receive money with your left hand would be to insult them. They thought that to be left-handed or to utilize your left hand was something evil or some type of demonic forces and very disrespectful to the people. So the physical extension of the right hand with the face of Caesar on coins is the mark on your right hand. This is the physical demonstration of you being able to participate within the Roman Empire. Now, the problem happens when Jesus never returns. After Jesus doesn't return, now people begin to question, who is the beast? Who is the Antichrist? What is the mark of the beast? And it still maintained the same ideology until we started getting more into the 17th century, 18th century, when people were looking for a Jesus to return and that it would be a literal way of banning people from being able to participate in government. This is why in the 1850s, the American government began to put "In God We Trust" on the money, realizing that the mindset of Christians was that participating in any government that was not a God-centered government was you participating in the beast, in the cult, in the economics of the beast. And that if you were participating physically in that economic structure, then mentally you were worshiping that imperial cult or the government or anti-God government. This is also why putting God in the Pledge of Allegiance became an important thing in America, so that it can identify our government as a God-based government. As you still see people fighting today saying that our government was a Christian-based government, even though we know that it is truly based on British common law and Roman common law, that is based on a democracy established within the Greek empires. So it is not something that came from Christianity, but a grouping of different European countries and ideals and the Enlightenment period that established the United States as the country that it is. But as far as the mark being anything else, the mark it was Social Security numbers at one time. It was driver's license or government IDs at one time. It has always been something over time that man has constantly said that this is the mark, this is the mark, this is the mark. When in truth, the mark is just whether or not you believe in the government or you believe in God, whether you believe in a different religion or you believe in the God of the Bible. The extension of that is in your right hand is your actual participation in whether you are participating in the worship of this God or you're participating in the worship of the government or some other non-Christian governmental system. So to ease Christians' minds and allow them to still participate and govern themselves, many countries have utilized God to place it inside their government, place it inside their money. So in effect, if you participate in the government, if you participate in any financial situation, you are using the mark of the beast. It is not a literal thing. It will never literally happen. It is not what the Bible is talking about. And it's a scripture that is way out of time and has been proven to be false because